Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Ruby Rogues podcast. I'm your host today, Valentino. I'm joined today by Paweł Dąbrowski. Did I say that right?
Yes, exactly. Hello everyone, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me today.
So Paweł, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what brought you on to the show today?
Yeah, sure. So as you said, my name is Paweł. I'm the Ruby developer. I'm currently working as a CTO at Iron Company. We create there a lot of software. Ruby is in our DNA, but we also create code in other technologies like Python, Golang, JavaScript, and things like that. And I'm here today because I wrote an article about the import maps feature in the Rails 7. I also created the tool called Rails Formation, and I often, write articles about Ruby and related stuff. So you can find me somewhere in the internet explaining things about Ruby. So that's the main reason why I'm here today.
Hey folks, this is Charles Max Wood from Top End Devs, and lately I've been working on actually building out Top End Devs. If you're interested, you can go to topenddevs.com/podcast, and you can actually hear a little bit more about my story about why I'm doing what I'm doing with Top End Devs, why I changed it from devchat.tv to Top End Devs. But what I really want to get into is that I have decided that I'm going to build the platform that I always wished I had with devchat.tv, and I renamed it to Top End Devs because I want to give you the resources that are going to help you to build the career that you want, right? So whether you want to be an influencer in tech, whether you want to go and just max out your salary and then go live a lifestyle with your family, your friends, or just traveling the world or whatever, I want to give you the resources that are going to help you do that. We're going to have career and leadership resources in there, and we're going to be giving you content on a regular basis to help you level up and max out your career. So go check it out at topenddevs.com. If you sign up before my birthday, that's December 14th. If you sign up before my birthday, you can get 50% off the lifetime of your subscription. Once again, that's topenddevs.com.
Awesome. I kind of do want to touch on import maps. I know before the show we had talked about a few other things, but that does sound like a lot of fun. So before we do, though, I want to talk about this competition of yours. Well, what is the name of it?
Well, the name is Mortal Coding. It's related with Mortal Kombat because, it was created around the retro games. That was the main theme. And the main prize was the Nintendo Switch. So it was for the game lovers and for the Ruby lovers. So basically it was a contest for Ruby developers. The qualification phase was about the answering questions, and the best players were qualified for the quarterfinal. And in quarterfinal, semifinal, we have practical challenges where two developers fight each other with the code. They write the code to solve the challenges, and the code was tested against the RSpec tests. So it was like a CI thing. And the final was streamed live on the Facebook. And we have even a dashboard where we saw the code in a live mode. And it was, really fun seeing two developers challenging themselves, writing the code live to just, to win. And it was also fun to build this platform because we started it with Rails 7 and we built it with the Rails Turbo. So it was really fun to create something like that. That's
really interesting, the live portion of that. Especially, how does that work? Do you get to see what they're typing and working on,
yes,
and a video of them, or is it just kind of like what they're working on?
Without the video, we didn't want to stress them totally, right? so we saw the input in the real time, what they are typing into code editor, and each time they press submit, we saw the feedback from the system, how many test scenarios they code pass, and if someone submit the solution that pass every test, then we were moving automatically to next task.
That's really cool. So there are a lot of code challenge, sites out there, not necessarily with the live feature. That is really cool. What kind of got you into creating this competition?
I started with a course platform where the developers were learning things by writing the code. So I had to build something like this kind of CI stuff that validates the code against the tests. And then my company came with the idea of Mortal Coding. And I was like, I had the code to handle this. Let's do this, And the final was really stressing because everything was streamed in a live. But Rails did a great job doing all the streaming of, data. So it's now battle tested. We can do big things with that. So definitely Rails 7 is a great tool.
That's really cool. So how does it all work? How does the editor work? Like what is hooked into it in order to get that kind of feedback during the competition?
I think it's quite simple because you have this text input, and as you type, we handle the event of typing, and we stream this output on the dashboard, and the dashboard is the source of streaming, so everyone is seeing what am I seeing on the screen, and it's working like that. It's pretty simple, but there was a lot of tests, to ensure that it's working correctly in every browser. We wanted to avoid the case where there is nothing on the screen and suddenly, the whole solution appear and, the challenge is over because someone submitted the right code.
Right.
We wanted to see in real time how they are thinking about the code, what kind of, approach they are trying to apply. It was really interesting.
That's cool. And how many people were competing?
I think over 100 for sure. I think close to 200 people.
Wow,
and it was
awesome.
only about the Poland. So, Ruby is not that popular in Poland. So it was a great result.
I mean, a few hundred people is a competition for sure. And we were talking about this before the show. It reminds me a lot of the old Rails Rumble, which for those that aren't familiar, since apparently it hasn't operated in over 7 years, but it used to be a competition where you get 24 to 48 hours, I forget which, to build a Rails app, and you can't have anything started beforehand. And it's kind of just to see, what you can make with Rails in a short amount of time. And it was always really cool. They had like a panel and social aspect where you can go in and vote for your favorites at the end of it. It had to be runnable at the end. So obviously there wasn't much testing going on, right? Since you want to just see more results than anything. But there were some really cool projects that came out of it that, now that it's been fizzled out for so long, I kind of missed, it'll be fun to see. I saw Chris Oliver from Jumpstart Rails trying to revamp that. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes about. But I would love to see like some live functionality like you have where it gives that more like competitive advantage. That's really cool.
Yeah, but I think it's 24 hours is not enough for me to build something like that. But it's all about fast prototyping. So it will be a great challenge for sure.
So what are your next steps with it? Like outside of taking it outside of Poland, are you looking to expand feature-wise more on it or more just like coverage?
We plan to do the English version so everyone can participate in the contest. And of course, I need to, find out the new challenges. I cannot use the same challenges. So that's also something we need to think about. But for sure, we want to go with a broader audience because we received very good feedback about that. It was really fun to do this. And it was also, great experience for me. I learned a lot of things. I had to, build the whole qualification phase with the around 30 questions, starting from junior level to the expert level. So it was fun. And the most difficult question was about the garbage collector. It was the question regarding the color that the garbage collector uses to mark some, cells in the memory. It was a silly question, but you can Google it. So it was not impossible to answer correctly.
I'm going to have to check that out after this. So you are quite busy in the Ruby community.
Yes.
You have quite a lot of publications out there now, which I love. I'm actually an avid reader of yours, so thank you for the continuous posts. I love to see the content. For those that don't know, Pavel writes quite a lot. It used to be Long Live Ruby, right?
Yes, now it's more personal thing.
Now it's more personal. So what was the transition away from that? I'm just curious. Why move away from Long Live Ruby and into the more personal space?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I started with the personal blog, and then I came with the idea to create Long Live Ruby because I wanted to involve more authors on the blog, but I eventually end up with only one guest author with a great article, but I decided to move back to the personal blog because I wanted to touch more topics around programming, but with the name Long Live Ruby, my readers expect things about Ruby only, so I was kind of limited. But, with this transition, I think nothing changed yet. I'm still writing about Ruby, and I think I will be doing this for like few next years because I still have fun doing it. I had some little break from writing, but now I'm back. I did some guest articles, and I think I missed that much. So I just came back to the
awesome
process.
Yeah, I mean, among many of it are kind of your CSV related things, and you do have your ebook, right? That you just opened up. It used to be paid, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
What was the name of it again? The CSV.
It was named Mastering CSV in Ruby, so it's just introduction to parsing CSV with the Ruby, because behind every CSV file there is a long story with coding and all that stuff. And I started with the paid version. It was a year ago, and now I decided to release it for free because I'm preparing another book, so I thought it will be great idea to do this. And it's funny because it came out that I can earn more by having it for free than I was selling it for money. So it's very interesting for me.
That's really funny.
I'm not a marketing guy, so maybe I did something wrong in the past.
So you heard that out there, folks. Freemium does work.
Yeah, I heard it many times, but I didn't believe it until now. Yeah.
Maybe it doesn't always work, but in this case, it's very interesting that it did for you. That's awesome, though. It's on my to-do list here to read that, go through. I've used CSV so much in the past, decade or so that I've been in Ruby, and I learn something new every time I do CSV.
Yeah,
there's just so much, right?
Yeah, and I thought I put everything I know into this book, and I received emails with the new topics about the CSV that I didn't cover yet. It's crazy,
That's
it's
so funny.
Format, but it's a long story about it every time.
That's awesome. So are there more books in your horizon? Is there something that you're planning to write next?
Yeah, I have plenty, topics. I have that kind of doc in the Google Drive where I have like 200 ideas for articles, but I never have time to write those. So I just need to focus on one and then, go for it. Marketing is also important, so I try to write more on my newsletter.
So I'm curious what your process is like for writing. You have a Google Drive that just has a ton of ideas in it, and you just scroll through it and you say, okay, I'm going to pick this one and start working on it. What's your process like? Usually
I just collect all the ideas on the doc. I'm not judging them, I can have better and worse ideas. But when it came with me for a long time, like few weeks, then I feel that this is the right topic to write about. Then I usually start with the research. I collect around 10 or 20 articles about the topic that I would like to write about. I learn new things that I don't know. Then I start with the kind of outline about what I want to write. And then I just, go point by point and write the article. So this is my writing routine, I can say. Yeah, with the book is similar, right? We have chapters, we can name articles, for example. So that's the process. The interesting part is that I hate doing ebooks from the technical side. I mean, forming those PDF files and things like that.
Getting the examples ready.
Yeah, so I created a library that transferred Markdown into PDF book with all the table of contents, of the formatting of code snippets and things like that. So it's finally become a pleasure, not a things I hate. It's great.
I got you. So of all of the features of CSV, which is your least favorite?
I think encoding is something that I not fully understand even after 12 years of doing it. So there is always something pop up when I parse the file, especially when it comes in a different language. Yeah, so this is the thing I hate the most. The size is not a problem right now. You can handle it gently, but with the encoding, you are never fully prepared for that.
Encoding always bites you.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, so I want to get into your import maps article because import maps are the latest craze. Rails 7 is the latest craze. I don't know how they work necessarily, fully. Thankfully we have your article now to reference, but I would love to dive in and kind of get your first take on it, on import maps in Rails 7, what you like most about it, what you despise about it, and then we can get into kind of how it works.
Okay, so I think I like it because it reminds me the old days where you can start a Rails application and add the, JavaScript easily. You don't have to use any Webpacker and things like that. You just attach the code, you can use it on your website. The things that I hate the most about import maps, well, I don't think I have something like that, but I don't like the feature that the JavaScript code is pulled from CDN. It's fine when you are, fast prototyping, but what if this CDN is down? Your application won't work. So I always advise to download the assets, locally, and do not use this feature of pulling JavaScript directly from the CDN.
I had seen that reference, right, from DHH's latest video of, oh, hey, you don't even need to download it. You could just CDN it.
It's fun in a local environment, but it can get tricky, in the production, because right now it's based on the JavaScript package management tool, and the owner of this makes it free, right? He has some sponsors, right? But he can decide that he wants to shut down this, and then we have a problem.
Hi, this is Charles Max Wood from Top End Devs, and lately I've been coaching some people on starting some podcasts and in some cases just taking their career to the next level. Whether you're beginner going to intermediate going to advanced, whether you're trying to get noticed in the community or go freelance, I've been helping these folks figure out how to get in front of people, how to build relationships, and how to build their careers and max out and just go to the next level. So if you're interested in talking to me and having me help you go to the next level, go to topenddevs.com/coaching. I will give you a 1-hour free session where we can figure out what you're trying to do, where you're trying to go, and figure out what the next steps are. And then from there, we can figure out how to get you to the place you want to go. So once again, that's topenddevs.com/coaching.
What do you use for, or let's backtrack. Is a CDN easy to get set up with import maps? And what do you prefer to use in that case?
Well, with the import maps, you can pin the library. So it means that you can pull it from to the Rails application. So I always prefer to use the download flag. It works the same as the standard version, but it downloads the files to the directory inside the Rails instead of pulling it from the URL. I think it's even faster in terms of loading the page. So maybe this option with CDN is great if you build MVP or something like that, or if you participate in Rails Rumble and you really don't care if the app is up after a few weeks after the contest. So I think that's the option for this.
Well, what about hosting them on Cloudflare or something like that? Have you done anything like that with import maps?
No, not yet. To be honest, I did a dive jump into the source of the import maps, but I was using the ordinary way, so just pulling the assets into the vendor directory and host it on my server. But that's the interesting aspect of this. And I saw some pull requests on the repository recently that modifies this behavior a little bit.
So before we dig in too much, can you clarify just like what import maps is and kind of how you get started using it?
Yeah, sure. So I think it came by the default in the Rails 7 as an external gem called import maps, and basically is a replacement for a Webpacker. So if you want to pull jQuery into your project, all you need to do is to type the command import maps pin jQuery, and it will automatically attach the jQuery in your application, so you can start writing the jQuery code inside your JavaScript files. You don't care about any bundling on something like that. You just, pin the specific version and you use it. So I would say that import maps is a great tool for anyone that hates Webpacker and stuff like that. Yeah, you can use the CDN. The default CDN is the JavaScript package management, but you can also use something like, Unpackage or JS Deliver or anything like that. I think you can even hook up something on your own.
Gotcha. So this is kind of like the replacement for sprockets in a way?
Yes. And when you create new Rails 7 application, I don't think you need Node. It just, bootstrap immediately. And in Rails 6, we have that step with the Webpacker and Node, which took some time to start. And if you had too old Node version, it will crash. So this is definitely improvement and helps you to start, faster.
So I did notice one thing that kind of I'm not sure about with import maps is it doesn't bundle any of the assets, right? It uses them individually in the map.
Yes, there is no bundling or extra tooling. You just receive the source, which is minified, and you can use it straight away. You can even create import map per page, because you may want to load some libraries on this page, but the other page you don't want them, so you have a full flexibility.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So how does that work? You kind of just reference it ahead of time in the map, or is that something that's done at the controller level?
Well, it simply works like a helper in the layout. So it requests the source, and if the library will detect that you are using it in the source code, it will load it. So even if you will define the import map for the library, but don't use it, it won't be loaded. So it won't slow down your application. Then, as we know, with the Webpacker, we can load a bunch of, Node modules, don't use it, and still, have a lot of space taken by those libraries.
Right.
This is now a cool thing.
Yeah, I mean, Webpacker has its nice advanced features, and I understand why it was a good initial thing to make it easier to build like front end first applications, as I call them.
Yeah, and to be honest, import maps is just a wrapper for the import maps feature, just like Webpacker was just a wrapper for the Webpack. It's just, Rails wrapper to provide you with some commands and Rails way of configuring things. So I would say it's quite simple under the hood, but it's still interesting to see the source code.
Is there anything that stood out to you from the source code that you were like, oh, that's kind of neat?
To be honest, not really.
In a way that makes me feel better. Right, like, boring code is often the simplest code, right?
Yeah, I saw there a nice way of handling errors. So when you don't need to alter the standard error class, you can just define it differently without inheritance. So it was something I learned there. And then I saw with the Rails source that is a default way of handling errors in the Rails source. So I do the same now in every app that I create. So this is something I learned from the source code of import maps.
That's really cool. So, I mean, this kind of segues into what I'm really excited to talk about, which is your new kind of Rails app generator.
Yeah, we can say that.
Because you kind of like, import maps is one of features kind of baked into the generator, right? Where it just comes, I know Rails comes with it automatically, but was it Formation, right? Rails Formation?
Yes, that's right. So
this is so cool.
It's more like a tool for bootstrapping.
Okay.
I didn't want to create no-code tool where you fill the form and create the Rails application, because I don't think it makes sense. People enjoy creating Rails application and write Ruby code, but I found it really frustrating and boring to bootstrap Rails application. I usually start with the estimation or a plan for application, and the boring part begins when you have to generate all those models, define factories, create test data. So it was, really boring, and I came with idea of automating this. So I created Rails Formation, where you can basically get your schema for let's say resources. You can type everything, select what validation you would like to have, and it will generate all that stuff, including factories, the test data with the Fucker gem. So you basically start with the application that it's shipped with the test data that you can use to write more fancy features. There is also mode for the API architecture, where you can define that the authentication is handled with the AP key. So you don't have to think about this part. It's generated from the beginning, so you can use it. And I wanted, to create something that will give you the sense of having the code created as it should be. So I spent a lot of time digging into documentation to find the right way of writing things, so people don't have to think about it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, this is a topic that I'm really interested in, because it's so funny. Like, there is a way to make a Rails template, right? And reuse it with the generators, right? And that's very well built. There's a lot of infrastructure there and available. But every time people end up with some kind of solution like this, they end up building something like you have with Rails Formation, right? Where like really they want an interface to define everything up front and configure it how they want in a visual format, and then have the application get generated kind of as a byproduct of that, right?
Yeah, I think when you build, for example, a Rails application with GraphQL, even if you do this 100 times, I think you will look up, in the internet how to configure GraphQL with Rails.
Yeah.
So, my goal was to automate this. So you can just tick a checkbox. I want to include GraphQL, and it will happen automatically.
Oh,
so
that's
you don't
awesome.
have to waste time, yeah. And I think you can even use it with your client. You can, ask him, so what do you want to have in your Rails application? And he will tell you, I want to have articles. Okay, so what kind of, fields do you want there? What kind of validation? And you just configure as he is telling you. And then you just click Bootstrap. You use the gem, and it will create the skeleton for a Rails application ready for the development.
That's awesome. So the biggest question here is, how do you handle upgrades? Or is that or is that kind of just if you use the tool, it gets upgraded as you use it?
Yeah, this is one of the two deal breakers, because the one is the upgrade process. Let's say that the Rails 8 kicks in, so I have a lot of stuff to update in the tool.
Right.
And the second thing is that most of the clients would like to have the standalone version, so then they don't share this data with Rails Formation. They have everything locally, like a GitLab instance or something like that. So there are two things that I didn't figure it out yet.
I gotcha.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit afraid of handling the upgrade process, because there's a lot of things to upgrade, a lot of things to test. You can add the Ruby gems, so I need to also test those Ruby gems if they are not breaking anything. So,
I mean, I'd like to think that as a Rails app generator tool, an upgrade is kind of like the last feature to introduce, right? Because you shouldn't be creating a new app every time, right?
Yeah, right. It's only designed to create new app, not updating anything. Once you create it, just leave it.
But it does make me wonder, right? Like this is such a common thing that seems to be missing, right, from Rails generator, right? Rails generate new. I know that there are a lot of new features coming. There's an interactive mode maybe planned on the horizon, right? I know there's a ton of comments in the PR for one of those, right? But it seems like we keep coming back to this in Rails for like, hey, we want a better way to generate Rails apps. And it seems like a tool like Rails Formation would be ideal to like have as part of the Rails feature set, right? Like, hey, I want to configure this Rails app, check a few boxes, and then start that way.
I think it makes sense visually as a web application, but imagine having it as a command line where you have like 1 million options to pass to the command in order to create. So I don't think it will work, with the Rails since the beginning. But
that's true.
To be honest, I took all this code for generating templates from the Rails source. So I'm using the same approach. It's just more rich format of doing this. And I really found a lot of ways to generate custom code using Rails commands. It's not a command because there's a lot of options to pass, and I won't remember them all. Not sure if anyone remember them. So it was fun digging into documentation and finding these things after 12 years of using Rails. It's always the aha moment. Okay, so it's working like that. Well, I didn't know about it.
I'm very curious about this. So what are some of these things that you found in the documentation as you went along?
Well, one of those things was the API key authentication when you are using the API version of Rails. So I came to the conclusion that you have to use like password digits instead of saving the password in the database. So this is one of the things I learned during the discovery process. But to be honest, it's like a topic for another article. I have somewhere noted all the things. It's so much happened right now that I wasn't able to remember all the stuff I go through. So it's hard to
I will say, every time I open up those Rails guides, I read something and I'm like, oh, that's in here?
Yeah, exactly. That's true. That's true.
Right? Like even, and I know it's been around a while, right? But like text editing and be able to like action text, I forget that's there when I haven't used it in a long time, right? Like there are these like huge feature sets of Rails even that I'm like, I'll have the Rails guides open and be like, what is this whole thing? I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I think part of the articles about Rails is just, the content from the Rails guides, you serve it in a better way or different way, but it's still there.
Right.
Most of the information is still in the Rails guides. So that's amazing,
It's so funny. It would almost be great to have, like, that's what I feel like is missing from Rails documentation, at least. It's like, what can you do with Rails, right? Like, because you could do like so much stuff, right? And I don't even know how you would search for something like that, right? Like, if you wanted to see like all the features available to you, so you don't go like rewrite something, right? Like, I don't even know if there's a good way to do that.
Yeah. It would be nice to have some, base of ideas or things you can achieve with Rails.
Right.
Or even videos how to create, I don't know, Twitter clone in 10 minutes. So
right.
Something like that would be valuable within, version 7.
Yeah, like almost like a Ruby toolbox, right? But Rails and specifically Rails core, right? Like... but right. All right, I want to import, CSVs. Like, is there anything Rails has that I can do that, right? Like, no, but Ruby has it. They can link out to the right.
There is a lot of things for the CSV, but the standard library is the best one, in my opinion.
I love digging into standard libraries.
Yeah, it's a really source of excellent code and excellent solutions. There is a page where the default Ruby gems are listed, and it's really surprising how many things from the standard library is extracted to the Ruby gem, and you can see the source and understand it.
Yeah, honestly, I applaud the Ruby core team, because I know that's been a painful process for them to kind of extract out all of those embedded gems into their own source code and link them in, right? But yeah, there are just so many in there that are part of the core gems now, and it seems like they keep adding them, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
I'm kind of excited for 3.2 with all the new source code augmentation stuff, where you can discover the dead end gem is now part of it. I saw.
Yeah, that's right.
So you can find all those missing do's that you were supposed to have in your blocks, right? I did that today, and it was painful. I wish I had something that could signal me.
A lot of happening is right now in the Rails community and the Ruby community. So it's a great thing that the Ruby is still alive. It's not a dead, it's still alive for sure.
So talking to that, what are you most excited for what's coming out in, let's say, Ruby?
The thing that I'm most excited about the Ruby? Well, to be honest, there is a lot of things. I mean, for me, the most exciting thing is that we are constantly moving forward. Even there is a, JavaScript on a hype train. We are still doing our thing, still creating, new features. Rails is moving forward with, to compete with the Python and PHP. However, I'm not sure if the PHP is still competitor with the Laravel thing or something like that. But for me, the most amazing thing is how the community is growing. There is a post-pandemic time, so we are back to the conferences and things like that. For me, this is the most amazing thing. Without those people, we wouldn't be able to move forward.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it has grown so much. Thanks for all the sponsors out there, right, that have just dumped a ton into investing into Ruby.
Yeah, Shopify, I think, just pumped up a lot of money to the community. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that.
So what about Rails? What's on the horizon for Rails that has you excited to use?
I really like this Rails Turbo thing. So I think it will get some upgrades. It's for me, it's working great as it is, but I think it will get some updates to improve even more the creation of single page application. And I think this is the thing I really excited about, because I'm not a fan of the, separated front end. I really like the Rails monolith, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so much. It's hard to keep track of all the new features.
Yeah.
I feel like I go through and reread the upgrade docs, weekly, just to see if I've missed anything that's made it in.
The fun begins when there is a release candidate and we can test out the new features.
Yeah, for sure. I think everybody looks forward to that. See what breaks.
early upgrades and things like that.
Right.
And then GitHub tells you that they are running on the newest version of Rails, and how is that possible even without breaking things?
I keep seeing all these articles on dual booting Rails, and I keep meaning to try it out. And
yeah, this is one of the things that I also want to try.
Right.
Yeah, I'm fan of the standard way of upgrading, but it might work as well.
One of these days, I'll figure out how to hook up the CD to use the next Rails, right, and tell me what's broken.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about today, Pavel?
Oh, I think we cover all the topics, so it was a nice conversation.
Yeah, we got through a lot. Honestly, I'm looking forward to digging through a lot of your latest content. I have a feed of Ruby people that I constantly check in on, and I'm behind on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
I have the second list of articles that I should write and the articles that I should read. It's growing all the time.
But for you guys listening out there, check out Pavel's content. He's got a lot of great articles out there on Rails, on Ruby, now just on life, developing. I'm looking forward to more of your content for sure, Pavel.
Yeah, I definitely will create something in the future, and of course add more features to Rails formation just to be prepared for Rails 8 when it comes finally.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm excited to hear about how your competition takes hold. I want to check that out for sure.
Hey folks, if you love this podcast and would like to support the show, or if you wish you could listen without the sponsorship messages, then you're in luck. We're setting up new premium podcast feeds where you can get all of the episodes released after Christmas 2020 without the ads. Signing up will help us pay for editing and production, and you can go sign up at devchat.tv/premium.
So let's get into picks. At the end of every show, we go through and just pick. It could be anything, software, not software, anything that you want to share with the audience.
Okay, so I can start?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think I will definitely share the Heroku announcement that came out today, that there will be no free Dino instances. So I think this is something that we should take into account. I have
this is so painful for me.
Dinos. Yeah, all the staging applications are free, and I think it's worth sharing this so we can prepare when the time comes.
So where should everybody move to?
Well, I would like to say that we should stay on the Heroku. They are doing great job, so let's just prepare for the bigger expense, I would say.
I will say I do have some paid dynos on Heroku, and it is just, there's nothing more satisfying than just git push Heroku master, right? Or main.
It's super simple.
It's just so painless. It's what I want. At this point in my career, if I'm not paying for it, shame on me, right?
Okay, so what's your pick?
So I saw Sidekick is coming out with a new abstraction called Capsules, which I think is really cool. It lets you kind of configure different queues to be processed with different concurrencies and different, environment variables and things like that. Really cool. It's kind of funny. I think I saw Mike Perham comment on Twitter that he was concerned of the size of this new introduction of the quantity of changes. But I'm kind of excited. Unfortunately, there are some internal changes that may not be backwards compatible. That was, kind of forced to make this happen. But, I'm kind of excited for it. I think it's a long time coming to get Sidekick to be, concurrent friendly. And with all the async stuff coming out, I'm kind of excited to try this out and get it working within the Sidekick realm, right?
Yeah, Sidekick is definitely great. So Mike did a great job as always. I'm really fan of this solution.
And aside from that, the only other pick I have is I got my hot tub hooked up recently, and I had it at an old residence, and I moved, and it was sitting in my garage for so long. And I finally painstakingly got it moved back to where I wanted it. And I had to augment my electric panel. And I finally, after a full year got everything resolved, and I'm looking forward to it. So my pick is hot tubs. I highly recommend them if you can.
Yeah.
It's just so relaxing, and hot tubs.
Yeah, that's a great thing. Definitely.
All right. Well, if people want to reach you out on the web or wherever, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, they can reach via my blog. This, is paweldąbrowski.com, or they can visit Reddit and they will probably see my articles there. So this is the shortest way of doing this.
Awesome. Well, it was great to talk to you, Pavel, and I hope to see more from you. And until next time, folks, this is Valentino. Peace out.
Bandwidth for this segment is provided by CacheFly, the world's fastest CDN. Deliver your content fast with CacheFly. Visit CACHEFLY.com to learn more.